The rifle was already in Adeeze's hands when she heard the car doors slam. 3 years of hiding, 3 years of looking over her shoulder, and she knew, this was it. Her fingers trembled as she checked the chamber, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the window, she could see them. 3 men in black suits, moving with a kind of precision that made her blood run cold. And then he stepped out of the sedan. Yong-Ho Cho. Even from a distance, he was unmistakable. The sharp lines of his jaw, the way he moved like he owned the air itself, that tailored black suit that probably cost more than her entire cottage. For a moment, Adaeze forgot how to breathe. 3 years hadn't dulled his presence. If anything, he seemed more dangerous, more contained, like a storm wrapped in expensive fabric. Before you go any further into this story, hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you're ready for a tale of obsession, danger, and impossible love. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Mama. Zora's small voice cut through Adeeze's panic. Her daughter stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, those impossibly bright eyes, Yong-Ho's eyes, staring up at her with innocent curiosity. Why do you have the big stick? Adeeze's throat tightened. She lowered the rifle slightly, her mind racing through impossible calculations. Run. Fight. Beg. Before she could decide, there was a knock at the door. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just 3 measured taps that somehow felt more terrifying than if he'd kicked it down. She opened it because she had no choice. Yong-Ho stood on her threshold, and the world tilted sideways. Up close, she could see the exhaustion carved into his features, the way his jaw was set with an emotion she couldn't quite name. His eyes, those dark, unfathomable eyes, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. Adaeze. Her name on his lips was a prayer and a condemnation all at once. 3 years. You shouldn't be here. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. You need to leave. Now. I'm not going anywhere. His gaze dropped, and she watched as he saw Zora for the first time. Everything in him went still. Completely, utterly still. It was like watching a statue come to life in reverse. Is she? Don't. Adaeze stepped between them, but Zora was already moving, her curiosity overriding her mother's fear. Are you the king of the rain? Zora asked, tilting her head. Mama told me a story about the king of the rain. He was sad because he lost his queen. Yong-Ho's expression cracked. Just for a second, but Adaeze saw it, the raw, unfiltered emotion that he usually kept locked behind walls of ice and control. He dropped to one knee, bringing himself to Zora's level, and when he spoke, his voice was rough with something that sounded dangerously close to tears. What else did your mama tell you about the king of the rain? That he lived in a castle made of glass and steel, and that he was very lonely. Zora touched his face with her small hand, utterly fearless. Are you lonely? Every day for 3 years. He looked up at Adaeze over Zora's head, and the accusation in his eyes was devastating. Every single day. Adaeze felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. Yong-Ho, please. You have to understand. Understand. He stood slowly, and suddenly the gentle father was gone, replaced by the crime lord she remembered. You took my child. You disappeared without a trace. Do you have any idea what I thought? What I imagined? He took a step closer, and she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke and something uniquely him. I tore apart half of Asia looking for you. I bankrupted families, destroyed businesses, all because I thought they might know where you were. That's exactly why I left. Her voice rose despite herself. Because you destroy everything, Yong-Ho. Everyone. I couldn't let you turn our daughter into what? Someone protected? Someone safe. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to anchor her in place. You took away my choice, Adaeze. You decided I wasn't worthy of knowing I had a daughter. You're a crime lord. The words exploded out of her. You kill people. You trade in violence and fear. What kind of life is that for a child? A life where she's protected. His voice dropped to something raw and dangerous. A life where no one would dare touch her. Do you know what could have happened? If someone else had found you first? If one of my enemies had discovered you were alive, had discovered her. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The implications hung in the air between them like smoke. I kept us safe, Adaeze whispered, but even she could hear how hollow it sounded. You got lucky. Yong-Ho's thumb traced circles on the inside of her wrist, and she hated how her body still remembered his touch, still responded to it. But luck runs out, Adaeze. It always runs out. Zara had wandered back to her toys, leaving them standing too close, breathing too hard, the weight of 3 years pressing down on them like a physical thing. Adaeze tried to pull away, but Yong-Ho held firm. Let me go, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Never again. His free hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. I let you go once, and it nearly destroyed me. I'm not making that mistake twice. This isn't about you. Then what is it about? His face was inches from hers now. Is it about how much you hate me? Because I can work with hate, Adaeze. Hate is just love that's been hurt. You don't get to do that. Adaeze's voice shook with fury and something else, something she refused to name. You don't get to show up after 3 years and act like you have any claim on us. I have every claim. His voice was velvet over steel. She's my daughter. And you. His thumb traced her lower lip, and she hated herself for the way her breath caught. You're mine. You've always been mine. I'm not anyone's property, Yong-Ho. No, he agreed, his mouth curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. You're not property. You're the woman who held my heart in her hands and ran away with it. There's a difference. Before she could respond, he closed the distance between them. His lips captured hers with a desperation that 3 years of separation had only intensified. It wasn't gentle. It was hungry and claiming and filled with all the words they couldn't say. Adaeze's hands came up to push him away, but somehow they ended up fisting in his jacket instead, pulling him closer even as her mind screamed at her to stop. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Yong-Ho rested his forehead against hers. Tell me you didn't feel anything. Tell me these 3 years erased what we had, and I'll walk away. Liar, she whispered, because they both knew he wouldn't. You'd never walk away. You're right. His smile was dark and possessive. I'm moving in. Excuse me. This cottage. I bought it. 3 hours ago, to be precise. He pulled a document from his jacket pocket, showing her the deed with his name on it. The previous owner was very motivated to sell. You can't just. I can. I did. He tucked the paper away. My men are establishing a perimeter. Sang-woo is coordinating security details. And I'm not leaving you or Zara unprotected for another second. Adaeze wanted to scream. She wanted to rage at his arrogance, his presumption, his absolute certainty that he could just waltz back into her life and take over. But underneath the anger was a terrifying relief. Because he was right about one thing. Luck did run out. And she'd been running on fumes for months now, always looking over her shoulder, always wondering when the past would catch up. I hate you, she said, but it came out broken. I know. He kissed her forehead, gentle this time, almost reverent. But you also love me. And that's enough to work with. The next few days passed in a surreal haze. True to his word, Yong-Ho transformed her quiet sanctuary into something resembling a military installation. Discreetly, of course. He was nothing if not thorough. Security cameras appeared in trees. Motion sensors dotted the perimeter. Men in suits took positions at strategic points around the property, trying and failing to blend in with the rural landscape. Adaeze watched it all with growing dread and grudging admiration. This was what she'd run from, this overwhelming, suffocating protection. But it was also undeniably effective. For the first time in 3 years, She slept through the night without waking to every sound. Yong-Ho, for his part, was struggling with fatherhood in ways that were almost comical. She found him one afternoon staring at Zara's toys like they were explosive devices requiring careful defusal. "You build the tower, and then she knocks it down," he said, not looking up from the blocks. "I've built 17 towers. She's knocked down 17 towers. What's the strategic objective?" Despite everything, Adaeze laughed. "It's not strategy, Yong-Ho. It's play. She's 3. Play should have rules. Structure. Play should be chaos." She sat down beside him, watching as Zara squealed with delight at knocking down tower number 18. "That's the whole point. It's freedom." Something shifted in his expression. "Is that what you wanted? Freedom from me?" The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Adaeze chose her words carefully. "I wanted freedom for her. Freedom to be a child without bodyguards and bulletproof cars and the weight of an empire on her shoulders before she could even read. And instead, you gave her isolation." There was no accusation in his voice, just quiet observation. "No friends. No school. Just you and her against the world." It hit harder because it was true. In protecting Zara from one cage, had she built another? "I did my best. I know." His hand found hers, fingers lacing together with familiar ease. "And now let me do mine. Not instead of you, with you. We build something better together, Adaeze. Something that keeps her safe without suffocating her." "You think that's possible? In your world?" "I'll make it possible." The certainty in his voice was absolute. "I'll remake the entire world if that's what it takes." That night, after Zara was asleep, they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the water. The silence between them was different now. Less hostile, more contemplative. Yong-Ho's security detail was invisible but present, and Adaeze found herself oddly comforted by it. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for not telling you about Zara." His jaw tightened. "I'm sorry I was the kind of man you felt you had to run from." "Are you still that man, I mean?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. The things I do, the world I operate in, it doesn't have space for softness, for mercy. But when I look at her," he trailed off, something vulnerable crossing his features, "she makes me want to be different. Better. Change doesn't happen overnight, Yong-Ho." "No," he agreed. "But it has to start somewhere." He turned to face her fully, and in the dying light, she could see every year, every burden, every choice etched into his features. "Let me start here. With you. With Zara. Let me prove I can be more than what I was." Adaeze wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it physically hurt. But 3 years of survival instincts couldn't be switched off with pretty words and promises. "And if you can't? If the violence follows you here, what then?" "Then I deal with it." His voice went cold, the crime lord resurfacing. "I always deal with it." That should have scared her. Instead, it sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with fear. She remembered this side of him, the absolute certainty, the unwavering control. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Before she could respond, Yong-Ho's phone buzzed. She watched his expression shift as he read the message, watched the softness drain away and be replaced by something sharp and dangerous. "What is it?" "Movement on the perimeter." He was already standing, already signaling to someone she couldn't see. "Unregistered vehicle, circled the property twice in the last hour." Adaeze's blood turned to ice. "Maybe it's just." "It's not." He was typing rapidly, his face illuminated by the phone's glow. "Sang-woo is running the plates now. But vehicles don't circle isolated properties at sunset by accident." "How long?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "How long have they been watching?" "Unknown. Could be days. Could be weeks." He looked at her, and in his eyes was something that looked like regret. This is what I was afraid of. Someone always finds out. Someone always comes looking. The next morning, the power went out. Not gradually. Just a sudden, complete darkness that swallowed the cottage whole. Adaeze was making breakfast when it happened, and the silence was deafening. No hum of the refrigerator, no distant buzz of electricity. Just nothing. Yong-Ho appeared in the kitchen doorway before she could react, already fully dressed despite the early hour. Get Zara. Safe room. Now. What's happening? Someone cut the external line. His voice was deadly calm, which somehow made it worse. This isn't reconnaissance anymore. This is active engagement. Adaeze's hands shook as she scooped Zara from her bed, the little girl still half asleep and confused. Mama? Why is it dark? Just a game, baby. We're going to play hide and seek in the special room, okay? The safe room was in the basement, reinforced concrete and steel that Yong-Ho had installed within 48 hours of arriving. At the time, Adaeze had thought it was overkill. Now, as he sealed them inside and activated the security monitors, she'd never been more grateful for his paranoia. Stay here. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. No matter what you hear, stay here until I come back. Yong-Ho, fear clawed at her throat. Who is it? Who's doing this? The Kwon family. His expression was carved from granite. Seoul-based Triad affiliate. They've been trying to move into my territory for months. Apparently, they think leveraging my daughter will give them an advantage. They know about Zara? They know now. The rage in his voice was barely controlled. Which means they die. All of them. He kissed her then, hard and desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of her. I love you. I've loved you since the moment you walked into my office wearing that ridiculous yellow dress and told me my accounting was sloppy. I never stopped. Don't you dare say goodbye. Adaeze grabbed his jacket, holding tight. You don't get to say things like that and then leave. Not goodbye. He kissed her again, softer this time. I promise. The wait was agony. Through the monitors, Adaeze watched shadowy figures moving around the property. Watched Yong-Ho's security team engage with professional precision. Heard sounds that could have been gunfire or could have been her imagination running wild. Zara clung to her, finally sensing that this wasn't a game, and Adaeze sang softly, old Nigerian lullabies her own mother had taught her, trying to keep them both from falling apart. Then she saw it on one of the monitors, an origami crane, delicate and precise, sitting on Zara's high chair in the kitchen. Made from bamboo strips, with Korean characters written in red ink. She couldn't read them from the grainy security feed, but she didn't need to. The message was clear. We can reach her. We can touch her. We will. The psychological warfare was almost worse than the physical threat. Almost. When Yong-Ho finally opened the safe room door, 3 hours had passed. He was disheveled, his suit jacket gone, blood on his shirt that she prayed wasn't his. His eyes found hers immediately, scanning her and Zara for any sign of harm. It's over, he said, voice rough. 2 intruders neutralized. The rest scattered when they realized we were prepared. Neutralized. Adaeze kept her voice even for Zara's sake. You mean killed. I mean they'll never threaten my family again. He knelt down, bringing himself to Zara's level. Are you okay, little one? Zara nodded, but her usual brightness was dimmed. The bad men are gone. Yes. And they're never coming back. It was a promise and a threat, and Adaeze knew he meant every word. That night, after Zara finally fell asleep, Adaeze found Yong-Ho on the porch again. He was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean, his voice carrying that particular edge that meant people were about to suffer. She caught fragments, addresses, names, instructions that made her stomach turn. When he ended the call, she didn't ask. She already knew. The Kwon family won't exist by morning, he said without preamble. Their operations, their assets, their leadership, all of it gone. I'm not taking chances with my daughter's safety. How many people? Her voice was barely a whisper. Does it matter? He looked at her, and there was no apology in his eyes. They came for Zara. They left a threat where she eats her breakfast. They forfeited their right to exist the moment they did that. You're talking about wholesale slaughter. I'm talking about protecting what's mine. He stood, closing the distance between them. You can hate me for it. You can call me a monster. But I will not apologize for keeping you safe. Either of you. Adaeze should have been horrified. Should have grabbed Zara and run again, faster and farther this time. But standing there, looking into the eyes of the man who had burned down the world to protect their daughter, she felt something else entirely. Relief. Gratitude. And underneath it all, that same dangerous love that had drawn her to him in the first place. I don't hate you, she said quietly. I hate that I understand. I hate that part of me is glad you're capable of this. His hands framed her face, gentle despite the violence he'd just orchestrated. You're not weak for wanting protection, Adaeze. You're not a bad mother for accepting that sometimes love looks like blood and sacrifice. She kissed him then, pulling him close with a fierceness that surprised them both. It was acknowledgement and acceptance, fear and relief all tangled together. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she pressed her forehead to his chest and let herself finally break. I was so scared, she whispered. Every day for 3 years, I was terrified, checking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, wondering if today was the day someone would find us. I know. His arms wrapped around her, solid and unbreakable. But you don't have to be scared anymore. I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. The following weeks brought a strange new normal. Yong-Ho split his time between conference calls managing his empire and playing with Zara in the garden. Adaeze watched him transform seamlessly from crime lord to father and back again, sometimes within the same hour. It should have been jarring. Instead, it was oddly mesmerizing. She found him one afternoon in his makeshift office, surrounded by documents and laptop screens. But instead of financial reports, he was researching something else entirely. Legitimate business acquisitions, he said when he noticed her watching. Tech companies, real estate, shipping logistics. All legal, all clean. You're going straight. She couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. I'm diversifying. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. The criminal empire will always exist. I'm too deep to walk away completely. But I can shift the balance. Make the legitimate side stronger, more profitable. Give Zara options when she's old enough to understand what she's inheriting. You're doing this for her. I'm doing this for all of us. He stood, crossing to where she leaned against the doorframe. I want to build something that doesn't require her to be surrounded by bodyguards her entire life. Something where she can choose her own path, whatever that is. Adaeze felt tears prick her eyes. That's all I ever wanted for her. Freedom to choose. Then let's give it to her. Together. His hands found her waist, pulling her close. But first, we need to make this official. 3 days later, Yong-Ho drove them to a house overlooking Houndy Beach. It was spectacular, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, modern architecture blending seamlessly with the natural landscape. But beneath the beauty was something else. Reinforced walls. Sophisticated security systems. Safe rooms disguised as ordinary spaces. A fortress and a home, Yong-Ho said, watching Zara run through the empty rooms with delighted squeals. Protection without feeling like a prison. Adaeze walked through the space, touching surfaces, imagining their life here. It was everything she'd run from. Luxury, security, the weight of his world. But it was also everything she'd secretly craved. A place where Zara could be safe without being isolated. Where she could stop running and start living. In the master bedroom, Yong-Ho pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a platinum ring, heavy and masculine, engraved with the Cho family crest. I'm not asking you to be my wife in name only, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I'm asking you to be my partner. My equal. The moral center of everything I'm building. Zara needs a mother, yes. But I need you to keep me human. To remind me why I'm doing this. Yong-Ho. Let me finish. He took her hand, but didn't put the ring on yet. I can't promise I'll never have to make hard choices. I can't promise there won't be danger. But I can promise that I will do everything in my power to build a world where our daughter can be free. Where you can be free. And where I can be the man you both deserve. Adaeze looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at their daughter playing in rooms that would become her home. She thought about 3 years of running, of fear, of isolation. And she thought about the alternative, standing beside someone powerful enough to shield them from the storms while still letting them feel the sun. One condition, she said finally. When Zara is old enough, we tell her everything. The truth about your work, about why I ran, about all of it. No lies. No pretty stories. She deserves to make informed choices about her own life. Agreed. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it felt like both a promise and a declaration. Full transparency. Always. That evening, they stood on the deck watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and crimson. Zara was between them, holding both their hands, chattering about the beach and the house and all the adventures she imagined having. Yong-Ho's phone buzzed, it always did, but for once he ignored it. His attention was entirely on them, on this moment, on the family he'd spent 3 years searching for and would spend the rest of his life protecting. No regrets? He asked Adaeze quietly. She thought about it honestly. About the violence that would always be part of his world. About the compromises she was making. The darkness she was accepting by standing beside him. About the girl she'd been 3 years ago who ran into the night with nothing but hope and determination. No regrets, she said finally. But I'm holding you to that promise. You be better. For her. For us. Every day, he vowed. I'll be better every single day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in impossible colors, Adaeze allowed herself to believe him. Not because she was naive, not because she'd forgotten who he was or what he was capable of, but because love, real, complicated, dangerous love, meant choosing someone despite their darkness, not because you could fix it, but because you could stand in it together without losing yourself. 3 years ago, she'd run from this man and everything he represented. Now, she was choosing to stand beside him. Not as his possession, not as someone who needed saving, but as his equal. His partner. The woman who would keep him human even as she accepted the monster he sometimes had to be. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was messy and complicated and probably dangerous. But it was theirs. And for the first time in 3 years, Adaeze felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. If this story kept you hooked from that first rifle scene to this beachside sunset, show some love. Drop a like, hit subscribe for more intense romance and thriller stories, and comment below telling us where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all around the world. This is just the beginning of Adaeze and Yong-Ho's story, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Zara tugged on Yong-Ho's hand, pointing at the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. Papa, look. The stars are coming out to play. He knelt down, lifting her into his arms, and Adaeze saw his expression soften in ways she'd never thought possible. They are. And we get to watch them together. All of us. All of us. The words settled into Adaeze's chest like an anchor and wings all at once. She'd spent 3 years believing that freedom meant running. But maybe, just maybe, real freedom meant having someone powerful enough to fight your battles while still respecting your strength to fight your own. It meant building something together that was stronger than what either could create alone. As they stood there, a crime lord, a fugitive mother, and the child who bound them together, watching the night claim the sky, Adaeze finally let go of the fear she'd carried for so long. The world was still dangerous. Yong-Ho was still everything she'd run from. But he was also everything she needed. And sometimes, love meant accepting both sides of that truth.